Spring day. Thank you for coming out tonight. Welcome to the meeting for the Town of Mount Pleasant Planning Board meeting regularly scheduled for May 7th, 2026, 7:30 p.m. First up, we have business items. Those are items that we have discussed in the past, and we are ready to discuss those items. First up is minutes from the 4/20/2026 Planning Board meeting. Any questions or comments from Planning Board members? Okay, do we have a motion on the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of 4/20/2026.
Motion from Walter,
Second.
second from Eileen. I'm going to go backwards today. Steve,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
Jane,
Aye.
and Walter.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Next up, we have 28 Country Club, Briarcliff Manor. Adoption of resolution of approval for the structural stabilization of an existing and failed slope, as well as the construction of a new single-family residence, which has been designed to better fit with the existing topography of the site. Steep slopes application PSSS 26-3, R20 104.15-1-33 Davy Ewan and Rochelle U. So that's an application that we've heard before. The board agreed to adopt a resolution. The consultant drafted that resolution. The board has reviewed it, and now we need to make a determination if the resolution is done the way that we wanted it to be done. So with that being said, any questions or comments on the resolution for 28 Country Club Lane in Briarcliff Manor? And that was, just for people who were here, that was the situation where the retaining wall fell down toward Metro North and all of that kind of good stuff. Right. Okay. So any questions or comments from board members?
Mr. Chairman, before you take action on that, Dave Smith recommended, because of the amount of fill that's being brought into the property, it may in fact damage the roadways around there. So he's asking that we include a performance bond to repair any damage that's done.
So, okay, so we can say that as noted. Okay. Any thoughts or questions from board members? Okay. We are at the point we need to make a decision what we want to do with that resolution.
I make a motion that we approve the resolution amended to include the town engineer's recommendation for posting a bond for roadway repairs if needed.
Okay, motion from Eileen.
Second.
Second from Jane. Steve.
Aye.
Eileen.
Aye.
Jane.
Aye.
Walter.
Aye.
And an aye from me. Okay. Next up, we have continuing public hearing, number 1, proposed 95 Bradders, Blythedale Children's Hospital, 3-phase improvement plan, including expansion for long-term care, parking deck, and improvements to site utilities and infrastructure. Application site plan SP 25-02, location 95 Bradders Avenue, Valhalla, New York. Section block lot numbers 117.17-1-2. Zone R20. Owner and applicant is Blythedale Children's Hospital. Engineer architect is Langen Colliers and E4H Architecture. Okay, welcome. Come on right up. We're ready to have our conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. For the record, my name is Janet Garris. I'm a partner with Del Bello, Donnell & Weingarten, Wise & Whitaker here this evening on behalf of the applicant. I know that your agenda is very long this evening, and I know that we've been before you a number of times with a number of presentations. I don't think we need to go through our presentation for you again this evening, although we're happy to do so if you'd like us to. What I'd just like to say is that over the course of the last 14 months, a number of times we've been before this board, we have made some modifications to our project to try to address the comments raised by both your professional staff and consultants. We have had 5 different individual traffic professionals review this application. First, we had our own traffic professional, your town engineer, your first consulting traffic engineer, Labella, NISDOT, and then your second traffic engineer. So we believe that we've addressed the traffic comments that were raised. And in fact, if at such time the project is actually implemented, the traffic conditions will be improved over existing conditions today with the kinds of improvements that are proposed, including the crosswalks and the sidewalk improvements and the bus stop improvements. So just wanted to mention that. As you know, Blythedale is it's a nationally recognized hospital. They take care of our most vulnerable child population. We've talked to the board about the fact that there is a shortage of beds in the state, and we are proposing, as you know, the addition of 44 beds that would take place in the third phase of a project. As we mentioned to you last month, we're seeking 44 beds from this board. That application would also have to go through the New York State Department of Health, and ultimately they would be the determiner of the number of beds not to exceed 44. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I know that over the course of the application process, you have looked at various areas of concern. Again, the traffic concerns that you had. We've also looked at landscaping and visual impacts. With regard to visual impacts, we've provided a very substantial landscape buffer between the proposed parking structure and the homes on Lisa Lane. As a matter of fact, in response to comments both from the board and from the neighbors, we have increased the caliber of the trees that are proposed there. One of the things, Mr. Chairman, that you had asked for last month was that we include maintenance obligations for those landscaping materials on our plans. I wasn't aware, but those notes are already on the plans that have been submitted and are before you. And then we've included some additional notes just to make it clear as to what it is that is required. So that's been done. Again, very substantial landscape buffer intended to screen neighboring homes on Lisa Lane from the parking structure. There were some questions raised about stormwater management. We have our civil engineer here this evening. There will be a stormwater pollution prevention plan prepared for this project, which will mitigate any stormwater impacts that that could occur as part of the project. I think those are the main areas of concern. You've taken a look at those. We've provided ample information to you in our written submissions. Our most recent submissions in March and April address all of the SECRA items and the outstanding items that you had raised. So we're here. We can walk you through things if you'd like us to. Again, I know your agenda's long. We do have our entire consulting team here this evening. What we are hoping, Mr. Chairman, you are prepared to do tonight is to close the public hearing following the addition of any public comment this evening. I know you have invited your most recent traffic engineer here to address the board, and we're here to listen to that as well. And that's what we have for you this evening.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from board members? Okay, let the record show there's no additional questions. Is there any additional questions or comments? Not this time? No. Okay. Okay, with that being said, we are here for a public hearing. If anybody would like to address the board on 95 Bradhurst, Blythedale Children's Hospital, please raise your hands. We'll give you a number. If you have a number, you can speak. We have number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Anybody else? Okay, keep me straight. We have 6 speakers. And come on up, number 1.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Hi, Michael Savino, 1 Lisa Lane. Good to see you all again. I'm going to be very brief tonight, not like last week or last month, but you know our position on where we stand. I'm not going to rehash that again. I actually just had 2 questions for the board, if I can ask a question as opposed to a comment. The signal at the corner of Grasslands and Bradhurst, does the New York State DOT control that?
My understanding is yes.
And if they make changes to it, do they have to notify someone at the town, or
When you say they, meaning who's they?
like if it changed recently? Because I can tell you something's changed there.
Oh, the DOT. So you're noticing, let me just paraphrase what you're saying. The light has changed. It's
Yeah, the
whatever,
timing is it's completely different than it was when we were here last
That
month.
would be the New York State DOT.
Okay,
But he's
but
asking, does the town get notified?
is there any notification? They could just do whatever they want?
They can do what they want with their.
And it is the state, that's
Yes,
who,
it is.
okay, I was just curious, because it's definitely changed. The traffic anyone else could back it up, probably the hospital themselves. I don't know what's happened there. It's gotten worse. My second comment is regarding the traffic. I read the latest study that the second group you brought in to
Yeah.
reaffirm what they brought, and he came to the same conclusion, or that he agreed with their conclusion that there will be no increase in traffic.
Right.
At the end of the last meeting, we asked their traffic engineer directly, will there be an increase in traffic, yes or no? And he said yes. So there's a conflict there. I don't know what the right answer is. I could read the report, all 218 pages of it, and I know they come to the conclusion that there's not any more traffic, but I don't understand how that's possible mathematically. And then when I asked him in person last time, he said there will be an increase in traffic. So there's some confusion there. I don't know what the right answer is, but I just want to throw it out there that it's not clear.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
And then lastly, third question for the board. This is a three-phase approach. Does the board have the power to, obviously we'd love to deny everything, but can you pick and choose that, you know, phase one, yes, phase two, no, phase three, no? Or is it all or nothing type scenario?
This is presented as a package deal to the board. So we're looking at the entire application, and that's what we're looking at. It's the entire package that we're looking at. We're making a determination on the entire package that's presented before us tonight.
Okay,
So we need to make a determination, yes or no, and that's the entire package conversation at this point.
okay, so there's no precedent for denying one piece and approving another
We
piece?
can't, they would have to, if we turned it down and they came back to us with a different proposal, then that would be a different story. But for tonight, what we're looking at is just one solid application, 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. It's the road, the school, the building, the garage, the
Garage.
landscaping, all the other elements that are around it. It's one solid application, one solid block. If the application was turned down, then they could come back and represent it differently
Piecemeal.
if they chose to at some point. But tonight's not about turning it down or not turning it down tonight. Tonight is one step, still a long way for the process for them. The question we have before us tonight is do we need to do a positive or negative declaration or nothing at all for the secret process?
Okay,
Then they still need to do some zoning amendments. That's another place that needs to, not zoning amendments, zoning the ZBA board, go before the ZBA board. So there's a couple things that need to happen. If the ZBA board is a no for them, they may come back to us for some changes to the application. So they have a ways to go still.
okay,
Tonight is definitely not the last night for them, either way.
okay. Thank you for that thorough explanation.
Yep.
With
So-
regard to your second question regarding, obviously, cars will be coming, there will be additional cars, but the changes that they're making they're saying that it won't create a negative impact make it worse than it is now. And in fact, that it will make it better, the kinds of improvements that they're proposing.
Okay, they can say that. I think it's subjective, but I mean, we'll see.
And I am remiss, by the way, I realize we do have our traffic consultant here tonight, so I know who is up for speaker number 2. I'm going to ask you to come up and just give us a preview of what you said, so we'll have
Okay.
some more answers for you hopefully on that.
All right, thank you very
Thank
much.
you. I'm sorry, I forgot that you come on up. Number 2, I'm sorry, we're just going to take a short little break here.
Good evening. I'm Amanda LaRosa, traffic engineer with Creighton Manning. I was asked to review all of the previous work that had been conducted on behalf of this board. So I had reviewed the original traffic study, the comment letter by Lobella, the changes that were made to the traffic study, correspondence with the NISDOT, and then the off-site improvements. And overall, I do concur with the methodology that was conducted. They conducted a trip generation study at the existing facility to establish their trip generation rates that were used within their study, which is industry standard for an application like this. The scope of off-site improvements seems to address both the concerns of the prior engineer and the DOT, and ultimately a lot of the improvements that are off-site are under the DOT's control, and those will be subject to permitting through the state's process, which will be rigorous. They'll meet design standards in line with federal guidelines and state guidelines. So I really don't have any concerns about the overall scope of improvements.
Okay, any questions or comments from board members?
I have a question.
Yes.
The crash monitoring period, 2 years at DOT requests, who controls that study? Who owns it? And then collects that data and disseminates it? Who does that?
So the consultant will have to answer to DOT on that. The permit engineer will review a crash study similar to what was actually included in the report, but it'll be in the 2 years prior to the construction, following the construction,
The
rather.
Consultant meaning Blightdale's consultant,
Absolutely.
Colliers, or?
Yep.
And did you, anything else, Walter?
That's all.
Did you put any thought during the construction phase of the project with with all the truck activities going on? Was that something that you reviewed or had
I did not.
you did not? Okay. Okay, any other questions or comments from board members? Okay, thank you very
Great.
much for coming
I'll
out.
be there.
Okay, number 2.
How you doing? My
Welcome.
name's Alan Howard. I live at 3 Lisa Lane.
Welcome, thank you for coming out
Thank you.
tonight.
A few bits and pieces, hopefully. It won't be too long. Okay, so we moved to the house in 2015. Initially, we did a tour of the hospital, which we were very impressed by the work they do. We also donate to the hospital every year, so we're big fans of what the hospital do. We built up a relationship with the hospital, especially John Flanagan, who helped resolve some issues like a fence, a new fence for us, trees for privacy, and support for a petition of a sidewalk in Bradhurst. When expansion was initially mentioned, I was told the parking garage was to be substantially smaller, be set back roughly a third of the way back from the end of the car park. That's a rough estimate. Somewhere along the way that changed. I sent pictures to the town this winter of a 7-foot to 8-foot mound of snow that had appeared at the end of the car park. There was a sign there to show that it was 7 to 8 feet. And that just gave kind of perspective of what a 22-foot building would do to our property. You could see from the pictures from my patio how enormous that, looked over our back garden. At the first public meeting, the board asked about timeframes, and the developer, Delier, said the parking garage was supposed to be built in March, I believe, showing us that the developers had no real regard for the board or the residents and presumed everything would pass swiftly. This is no reflection on the people who run the hospital, in my opinion. To talk about trees. Trees die. Are they going to replace trees continually? Is that going to keep happening? One tree dies, or they're going to put a tree, and how many years is that, to take to catch up? When they put the trees in, they lost roughly, I would say, 65, 70% of the trees that they did put in a year and a half ago. Are we really going to take down the large trees that are established and have been there for, I don't know how many years, 40, 50, 60 years, that overlook our backyards? Again, I sent pictures of them trees in. They're beautiful trees, full of leaves now in the middle of coming into the summer. In that area, unfortunately, recently I've had some people urinating. I've sent, I've had a town, Fulgenzi has said he'd called the town. Right behind my fence. One morning I walked out, there was a person I believe doing it. Another day I walked out with my children, they were the person was right up against my fence doing it, and my 2 kids. And they're talking about this parking garage only being 44 feet from the property line. And I don't think that we should be listening to people saying our house is 150 feet from the parking garage when you got people urinating right on my fence. It's my property that matters. It doesn't matter where my house is. It can be down the front of the property. That's irrelevant. It matters where the property is. So I just want to say thank you to the board for listening to the residents, not getting bullied by the hospital's legal team into a swift decision favouring them, because they obviously thought this would be a done deal and would be done by now, and they'd have their parking garage built. And thank you to the neighbours, not just my neighbours, the neighbours across Bradhurst who are fighting on our behalf. So thank you for all that. And I'd like to sum up by saying, all in all, our family feel, like many others on the street and across in the other streets, that the hospital has simply outgrown this space, and they have alternatives to this plan, and we've given them alternatives. So that's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you.
out tonight. Okay, number 3. Getting better at this. Welcome, thank you for
Hi.
coming out tonight.
How are you? I'm Megan Chiappa, again at 5 Lisa Lane. I do have two questions, and since they said, Blightdale said their engineer is here tonight, we didn't get an answer to the question last meeting that Mr. Hickey had asked. Is the parking structure able to hold another level?
Is the parking, well, just
Yeah.
address us.
Is the parking structure able to hold another level
Okay.
for future?
Okay, and you have, we'll get an answer to that question, I hope. And you have a second question?
Well, it's more of a comment, but I'm the one who keeps sending traffic pictures. I don't know what time this traffic study is being done, by whom, and I understand she got up and said her findings of the study. However, going from Lisa Lane to Grasslands between 3 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon takes me 10 minutes.
Yep.
It's not even a half a mile. And that's the reality of things. So, that's all I have to
Okay, so
say.
do we have the engineer here? And we'll just have we have an active question, I'd just like to get it addressed. Could the parking structure support another layer?
Dan Paisano, I'm the owner's representative for Blightdale. The answer is no. So it is not designed to hold another level.
Can we make sure we get that in the minutes, too? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So number 4, please. Welcome. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Collins, board members. Nice to see you again. Let me just start with, today I was informed that a response from the petitioner. Excuse me, I know where you are, but can you put your name on the record? Sean Quigley, Valhalla, sorry. The petitioner's attorney responded to 2 of my letters in March 23rd and March 30th. On April 2nd, that was the last public hearing. And I just got that response today, 35 days later. So I want to make that point on the record that I want to be able to respond to her letter in writing. Okay, I want to make that part of the record. Okay, I'm not sure why it wasn't on the website, but I just got an email late this afternoon on that. Ms. McLean, I just heard you comment about there's not going to be any impact. That's what their engineers are saying. That's always the case with these developments. All of the years I've been coming here, that's all I hear. There's no impact. But there's a huge impact to the lived experience of the residents who live there. I hear it constantly, year after year. They bring in 2, 3 different consulting teams, and that's all we hear. There's no impact. So I have just a couple of questions. Mr. Collins, I wrote them down. I don't want to go off scope like I did a little bit the last time, but
It's okay.
my first question is, has any cumulative environmental analysis ever been conducted for this site across its successive expansions over the past 25 years?
I don't have an answer to that question.
Mr. Cleary, do you have an answer? You've been here for 22 years, haven't you?
So we haven't gotten to the point where we would do that. So
And
if the
why-
board
and-
makes a decision, one way or the other, they would have to take into consideration the cumulative impacts.
And so since 1998 till now, there's been no, you're here for 20-plus years, there's no cumulative impact
So
analysis
at
complete.
each time the board considers an action, they would have to take into consideration the cumulative impacts.
And my
The
question
point of
again
doing
is,
that-
my question again is for the expansions that you've been here for, that's never been asked for, correct?
The last time the board approved something, there was a cumulative impact analysis that was done. So they
Where-
have to
where
do
is-
such a thing as well. It's
where is that in the
incorporated
record?
Into the determination of the seeker determination of significance.
Okay, so that's in the record?
It is.
Okay.
It would have to be in the record if they choose to move in this case.
Second question is on critical environmental area. I know we've been going back and forth on that. It is adjacent to a CEA,
To a what?
to a critical environmental area. It is adjacent to the critical environmental area in Greenberg.
Yeah, your note, I read your note.
Yes, that's been on the books since 1993, right? Here's my question. The applicant's own 2025 FEAF, page 12, checks yes to CEA adjacency. The first time in 3 expansions spanning 23 years. Has this board ever analyzed this site's potential impacts on the Greenberg Critical Environmental Area? And if so, where does that analysis appear in the record?
Again, I don't have an answer to that question.
Mr. Cleary?
You've got me on that one, Mr. I have to go back and see what we did last time around.
It's never been analyzed.
It's been a while, I don't
Because
know, we'd have to look.
because I sat back here for, I don't know how many hours, over multiple days, looking through the whole file. It's not in there. Condition 21 of this board's own 2008 approval imposed binding drainage protection obligations on this property. Mr. Cleary wrote it. Has the applicant addressed condition 21 in the current application? If yes, where in the record does that response appear?
Taking notes on that.
My fourth question is on ADA pedestrian safety. Yesterday, I submitted a video of a wheelchair-dependent Blythedale patient, medically fragile child in a wheelchair, with his caregivers navigating the end of Blythedale's northern driveway on a state roadway shoulder with no accessible infrastructure, a deficiency the applicant's own consultant identified in April 2024. And it's never been addressed, it's never been remediated. Has this video been transmitted to Creighton Manning?
It would have been, I'm assuming it was, yeah.
Has there been any assessment of medically fragile, handicapped children that have to navigate with their caregivers two treacherous roadways, Bradhurst Avenue and Grasslands Road? I've submitted 2 still photographs to this board of people in wheelchairs, one at the corner of Grasslands Road and one at the end of the northern driveway of Blythedale. Still shot and a video. And you see in the video, I'm assuming it's the mother, standing about 6 inches from the white line on Bradhurst. Because there is no infrastructure there whatsoever, no apparatus. There's not even a path. There's no pad there. And her other child is standing almost in the line of traffic, southbound traffic. The young girl drinking the bottle of water. So I get all of the traffic analysis and all the experts and all the brain trust behind me, but who's assessing that? Who's analyzing that? There is enormous exposure to the town of Mount Pleasant taxpayers from a liability standpoint. Enormous. I asked the last public hearing, what is the plan? Mr. Cleary asked it in his memo, for 250 truckloads of 10,000 cubic yards of fill coming out of that job site. You're going to have that with handicapped children like that? I haven't heard any plan. Enormous exposure for this town. So they can crunch all the numbers they want. I live over there. I live right on that corner. And I've seen time and time again, whether it's employees, caregivers, parents wheeling their handicapped children up, and they cannot get from point A to point B. It's astonishing. My last question. This could be a mistake, but I don't know if it is. I was reviewing your tracker out on the town website, your planning tracker that has all of the potential expansions that are coming before this board.
Yep.
95 Bradhurst is out there, unlisted action. Directly across the street at 108 Bradhurst Avenue is a 1-acre lot right across the street from where I live. 43,000 square foot lot. The owner wants to put 2 private homes there. Beautiful. No history of drainage failure. No history of flooding into a residential home, and no steep slopes. How in the world is that project classified as a type 1? And this is classified as an unlisted? Somebody explain that disparity to me. Because I can't reconcile it in my own mind, that a massive project like this is classified as unlisted. And a basic subdivision? 2 residential homes, flat piece of property, no steep slopes. I've been there 20 years. I know the property well, and I know the property owner. How is that a type 1? Anybody, Mr. Cleary? How is that classified as a type 1?
I'm going to stick to 95 Bradhurst at this point.
It's a huge
Fair question, but
okay.
fair question.
It's a huge disparity,
Right.
in my view, from a classification standpoint. It just doesn't square with me. It doesn't make sense that a basic residential subdivision, 2 houses, and 40,000 square feet, 132 incremental parking spaces, with handicapped children going wherever they have to go to get on a bus. I know you have a tough job. I am well aware of that. But that's my lived experience over there and my neighbors' lived experiences. We see it every day. And you go back and you look at that video. What's the response from this team?
Okay, so just to paraphrase, your biggest concern though over there is what? We went through the questions. Was there anything else?
I've submitted 13, I think, different letters to this board. There's a lot of concerns in there.
There
Do you
is.
want me to repeat them?
No.
Okay.
No, but I'm
You've
just
heard
trying-
all the concerns.
I'm just trying to-
I think they have, here's the biggest concern, Mr. Collins, now
Yeah.
that you asked, they've blown out their footprint. They've blown it out.
Guys, I'm going to ask you just a quick favor, if you don't mind. And I know we have to keep the meeting calm. We have to keep the meeting calm. It's my job to make sure that we don't have the yelling and the screaming and the cheering and the jeering. And here's why. Because we are in a room with a lot of emotion. It can go one way or the other. And I want to make sure that everybody's treated respectfully, everybody's treated with the integrity that they're entitled to. So let's just try to keep it calm.
Mr. Collins, I appreciate that. My big concern is, you've heard it here,
Yeah.
these public hearings, they've blown out the footprint. They're looking to build that parking deck 44 feet from my neighbor's property line. That's absurd. I know that's a zoning issue. It's a huge concern. That's a huge concern. You're going from 150 feet buffer, 250 foot buffer? 200 feet buffer, 2, 2, and 2, 600 feet. They're clawing back 475 feet and leaving the community with 125 feet of buffer? It's absurd. Huge issue, safety issue, pedestrian safety. How in the world can this not, a handicapped child on the shoulder of the road not be a significant adverse impact from a secret standpoint? You know what else is my big concern? Is I would like to see Mr. Cleary and Sal Pinnell and the rest of them, when they get called to a petitioner 2-3 years early, and they come up with their plans and say, okay, what do you think? How about saying no every once in a while? It's always yes. And then we go through this for years at a time. That's a big concern of mine, because they're not taking these things into consideration. Handicapped children, safety, traffic, classification. It'd be nice to hear no every once in a while. Listen, you guys, we have accommodated this hospital for 30+ years. We've allowed them to do everything that they've wanted to do. Everything. Never, no pushback. It's all in the record. I've read it. How about every once in a while say no? There's a community there. Those buffers were put in place for a reason, to separate institutions from residential areas. And we have to deal with that? Losing all of that buffer? There's a lot of concerns, Mr. Collins. I don't want to take up any more time. I've written them. I put it in my letters. I want an opportunity to respond to Ms. Garris on the record. She put a 6-page response into my letters, and I want an opportunity to respond to her.
Okay, thank you. And listen, I understand your frustration, but I also want to thank you because you've put a lot of work into, you could do anything else other than what you've done. You could sit on your couch and watch TV. So, and I say that to everybody who comes, not just to you. It's my routine now. When I see people are engaged, whether it's this application or other applications, thank you for doing the work that you're doing because it does help us understand your perspective.
You're welcome.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so number 5. Did I s- Your hand raised, so you're coming up.
Good evening, Dominic Vita, Hawthorne. So I haven't done as deep a dive as the residents who live nearby on this application, but I have listened to past meetings and the points they've raised. They're similar to points that I've raised with other applications. Their concerns mirror my own, so I thought I would step up tonight in support of them and just ask a couple of clarifying questions. Chairman Collins, I think you started off by saying the next step here is either a positive or negative declaration. Is
Correct.
that where okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that. So considering that, it sounds like from these last several meetings and all the written submissions, you have more than enough on your plate to justify a positive declaration and a further deep dive into the environmental impacts here. Traffic, which is of course close to my heart as an impact, is horrible in that area of town, which I do not live in. I live up the road from another development which received a negative declaration. We don't need to relitigate the past, but we can learn from it. And the big lesson with that development that I live up the hill from is there were impacts that are environmental we're still dealing with today. We're dealing with state roads that are impacted, just like state roads are impacted here. They said no increase in traffic, huge increase in traffic. So here, I do think you're going to have a tremendous amount of impacts. I think you also have to take into consideration that you have down the road an almost 500,000 square foot development. You have down the road the other way, a development that's coming, a senior living center. And then in another direction, you have an expansion of a hospital, yet again, Westchester Medical Center. There's a lot of traffic that is primed to hit this area in the future. I'm not sure, I haven't, again, done a deep dive, so I apologize, into these traffic studies. I'm not sure, having seen other traffic studies and the work done by traffic consultants, that they really take into consideration the cumulative impacts of these future developments that are planned, approved, and coming. That is huge. That will make its way into an environmental impact statement. That is something to consider a positive declaration in support of, in addition to the flooding, the nuisance, and the other things that our neighbors have brought up. And Mr. Quigley, who just spoke, is correct. We all pay the price when the operating costs go up. All of us, including our neighbors sitting on this side of the dais, all pay the price when the operating costs go up. And that's sometimes a large price to bear, and it's gone up. And that is a big concern for all of the residents in every part of town, not just those who live close by. So this impact is going to be big and much bigger than just that intersection. And I hope that you give it a positive declaration. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going out of order. I have a secret. May I speak
You
for
can-
just a quick moment?
I have, Mr. Glenn, can you hold on for 1 second? We have some,
Oh, I thought that he was the last.
no, there's one more behind him.
Oh, I'll wait.
Glenn, come up.
Glenn Acasella, Valhalla.
Yeah.
You know, I urge you all to look at this when you review this meeting and look at the faces of all of you people that I looked at tonight after Mr. Quigley asked you all these questions, and most people didn't have, and I don't mean any disrespect to you, but didn't have any response to any of his questions, which were important questions. This property isn't just we don't want it there. We know they do good things there. It's not the question of that. This property is grossly, grossly overdeveloped already. There's been a lot of talk in this town about development and the properties going forward in so many of these properties that are being looked at right now, okay? We have to start, this board has to start looking at all these developments and how it's affecting the whole Mount Pleasant in a whole. This intersection at Bradhurst and Grasslands Road in their southerly driveway, okay? If people leave a gap at the driveway, people from their vicinity come out into the left lane only. Now, you have 2 traffic engineers tonight. Nobody brought this up. Their own traffic engineer at the last meeting said I was 100% right about who's doing what at that intersection. If somebody's going straight down Norwood Road, the traffic light is red, somebody will come out of their property, they will go into the left lane to go east on Grasslands Road and make the right turn, okay? Very dangerous situation. It happens all the time. They said last time that this was AI and people. I'm the AI. I took these people to the wheelchairs sitting out there. I watched them struggling. It's no lie. These people are there. I've been asking for them to walk on the internal section of their property. It has to be looked at. Going forward, there has to be a positive declaration on this property, bottom line. It's too much going on. I think that was proven to you from Sean Quigley and other people that spoke. It has to be. It shouldn't, they shouldn't be allowed to be able to put a shed on that property. Look at the overmap of the structure of that property. There's only one grassy area, and that's where they want to put this addition. There is no buildable property left on that lot. Grossly overdeveloped. It's not that we don't want them there, we just don't want any more gross overdevelopment. And it should be looked at of all the developments going forward in this town of what gets developed.
And the question about all the developments also, I would encourage people, and I've seen other folks doing it, bring this conversation also to the town board.
I have. I did it with Coffee.
Yeah.
When I was here with Coffee, with Carl, I brought it to his attention, and I even said it to him then, that the board or the town should look at in a whole of all these developments going on. There should be a fund that is looked for infrastructure improvements in this town. Smart development, smart infrastructure. You can't just keep building and using the same roadways and the same structure.
Because we're only talking about this one application, but the conversation about the wider town, I can't really
I know, but
do much
know,
with
yes,
it. But I know you get very passionate. But I also encourage you, and I've seen other residents here who have gone to the town board to bring the same concern. And they're valid concerns, but I can only tell you what this board can do and can't do. So that's a bigger conversation for the wider town, and that's something I encourage you to bring to
Yeah,
them.
but all the projects come through the planning board.
They do.
So you got to look at what you're developing and how much you're developing.
Yeah.
This development, it's not just a vacant property and looking to put a property. They've developed and developed and developed. You know, at the end of the day, the question is, when do you say no?
Okay.
And you know I get passionate. I wasn't that loud tonight, so I apologize for last
I commend you on
time.
that, and thank
But you got to listen. You got to listen to the people that live in that neighborhood. None of these people that are making all this money
here's
live
what
there.
here's what we have to
They
do.
don't see these people driving like I said I do. We see them.
We listen to everybody, including the people here tonight, and also the applicant and all the consultants and all the studies and all that. So we have to listen to a lot of people, a lot of different things. But I have heard you loud and clear, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Stephen Cavey.
Good evening. Stephen Cavey, Conservation Advisory Council Chair. I hadn't planned on speaking tonight, Mr. Chairman, but after hearing the other speakers, I thought it was important for the record to show that the Conservation Advisory Council has been listening to these comments, and the issue before you right now with regard to a declaration of significance, the council, I think, should be on the record as well to suggest that a positive declaration would be an appropriate response at this point. Clearly, there are negative environmental impacts that need to be addressed and studied with great scrutiny, and not the least is the stormwater issue, the traffic issues, and I'm actually not that familiar with the proximity to a CEA, but I think this is also something of some concern. There are a variety of other things, and a more substantial review of this application through the seeker process with a full DEIS, a full environmental impact statement, study rather, would be a valuable next step, and a positive declaration would be the appropriate response.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we heard from 6 plus the CAC. Any final questions or comments from board members? Okay. Any final comments from the applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and, thank you for listening to all of us once again. I think that on behalf of the applicant, there's a few things I'd like to address. First of all, patients who are at this hospital are arriving at the hospital via ambulance, ambulette, some type of private transportation. They're not arriving to the hospital via public transportation. So if families are visiting their child at the hospital and they take their child out, they're not prisoners at the hospital, and the hospital doesn't control what a parent does with its child. So if a parent takes his child for a walk someplace, whether the hospital thinks that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's not something that's within the hospital's control to prohibit a parent from taking their child someplace. I appreciate the comments with regard to a wheelchair in the street. All we can do is try to encourage them not to do that. Again, with regard to the traffic, you've had 5 experts review this. The classification of this project under SECRA is clear. We've stated to you in our submissions what that classification should be. We stand by that. The review of this project under SECRA is the same. What you have to do is take a look at the areas of concern and determine whether or not those areas of concern, you've taken a hard look at those. So what would you look at? You would look at traffic. We've looked at traffic. We've looked at traffic 5 times. An environmental impact statement regarding traffic isn't going to reveal anything different than what has come through in the 5 different reviews of the traffic for this potential project. Again, I understand that people are unhappy about the traffic in the area. We are not responsible for correcting the traffic in the area. What we're required to do is to mitigate the impacts of our project to the maximum extent practicable. We have done that. We have done that with each and every area of environmental concern. And all of that information is in the record. With regard to stormwater, again, I'll reiterate, we have a stormwater pollution prevention plan prepared for this project. It will mitigate any stormwater, additional stormwater, as a result of this project. There's been some misinformation that's been shared with the board. We've been clear to you in our submissions about that, and I don't need to go through that with you all again. I take exception to Mr. Cabby's presentation here this evening. We are not aware of the CAC having taken any look at this information or any action other than to stand before you tonight and to listen to the public and their concerns without having reviewed the record. I'm not aware of the CAC having any purview over this application, nor am I aware of them having reviewed or taken any official action with regard to this. So to stand before you and say that, 1, a positive declaration is appropriate when it is not as a matter of law, and number 2, that the CAC has taken some sort of look at this application is just not right. So you have all of the information before you. Again, we stand by what's in the record, and we hope that you close the public hearing this evening. There is no information that's being presented to you with regard to the record that you have before you. We are comfortable if you close the public hearing and leave the record open for additional comments, for written comments for a certain period of time. We're comfortable with that. We've made our submission. I don't know why somebody didn't receive something that was submitted to the board in response to comments at your last meeting. It was a matter of public record and was in the portal. So I asked, Mr. Chairman, that we get to the point now where we close the public hearing and we ask you to take action. We ask you for that negative declaration. We believe that we're entitled to it. We have all of the information that's in the record. And what we've done is we've designed a project that mitigates any impacts of this project to the maximum extent practicable. That's what we're required to do under the law, and that's what we've done.
Thank you. Quickly, and, yeah, come on up.
Far be it from me to try and address a legal issue. I'm not an attorney. But it's been my experience in reviewing land use applications that if in fact there is an adverse significant environmental impact, that seeker could require a planning board to call for a full environmental review. So I was speaking specifically on the seeker process. The applicant's attorney is correct, as I stated from the start, that we have not reviewed this application in great detail. I would be happy to, if you want to extend the public comment period and public hearing, to review and come up with more detailed response on this. But as I said, we're speaking specifically to the seeker process, and there are adverse significant impacts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there something new? Okay, one additional comment. It has to be something new that I haven't heard before in the last 6 months. I did email it to you, but I don't know. All right, come on up.
I think it's relevant. It's not exactly in the flight deal, but it's about Bradhurst. I work for Westchester County. I've been told from high up people in Westchester County that they've already spent 18 million developing a new facility in the Grasslands campus that's going to be fast-tracked. It's going to be 100 people working in there, 4 stories high, and we have over 3,000 pieces of equipment. Not all roadworthy, but, you know, a lot of trucks, cars, tractor trailers, everything. So I just want you to take that into account, that that facility, 18 million is already spent on its development. The plans are there. We know how many lifts are going in the garage. We know the department's going into it. And just take that into account, because that's a lot of tractor trailers, cars, pieces of equipment for, you know, hot boxes, trucks, everything that will be used in Bradhurst.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we've heard from the public, we've heard from the applicant, we've heard from the traffic consultant. We have a public hearing that's open. We can make a decision to close the public hearing or not.
I would make a motion to close the public hearing, but keep a public written comment period open for a period of, how long?
30 days.
30 days, 10 days, 30? I don't think the applicant has submitted new information that changes what, what we've been looking at for some time now. And the comments that we've received have been very well thought out, very well studied, and will help in our decision-making. But I think 10 days ought to do it.
So is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, so motion from Eileen. Have a second?
A second.
Second from Jean. Steve?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Walter?
Aye.
And aye for me. So the public hearing is now closed. So now we need to make a determination on SEQRA.
It seems that there are 2 secret questions. Is the applicant correct that this is an unlisted action?
Yes.
Okay. Then,
That's not a subjective decision. It's-
Right,
it's
there are the
specified by
standards.
the statute.
right.
Correct.
Okay, so that puts that to rest, type 1 or unlisted. So then we have to decide whether we want to do a positive declaration or negative declaration. Can I just ask kind of my fellow board members, is there anything that you feel that we need more information on, or something that has come to light that would cause you to need additional research in a particular matter? Whether it, you know, visual impacts, traffic impacts, stormwater impacts, or are we satisfied with the information that we have? Or like, slow down, we need more information.
Could we hear from the CAC formally within the 10 days and then decide after that?
I think the board's decision, I don't know that it is.
Well, hold on, guys. Come on up.
I don't know that the CAC is going to be able to do a substantial amount of research to sway the board in one way or another. I don't know, could I poll the board to see what their position?
I don't think, hold on. Listen, at the end of the day, this application has been here for a long time.
Mhm.
And we could have had a CAC comments this whole entire time.
That is correct,
And we
Mr.
have
Chairman.
not. So
Mhm.
in fairness to the applicant, I think you're more than welcome to write comments because the end of the road is not here for many reasons, like they have to get zoning, but at the end of the day, we have to be aware of the fact that they have been here for quite a long time, and the CAC could have written comments for over a year, if not longer.
I don't disagree with the timeline being extremely long, Mr. Chairman. Frankly, the degree of impacts only became apparent as I started to attend these public hearings. Applications come to us for specific review with regard to wetlands and some other significant environmental impacts or much larger subdivisions. So this one, frankly, did not cross our path until I happened to attend public hearings and public meetings.
Okay,
So I acknowledge that.
And the CAC does tremendous work, but I also want to make sure that we're not doing something we shouldn't be doing.
I agree,
Right,
and frankly, I don't want to be in a position of offering written comments to be the deciding factor on a positive declaration.
Yeah.
I think the board can weigh their decision. I do believe, as I said, that as a matter of fact in the seeker process, that there's a significant adverse impact, and it is not inappropriate for a planning board to make a decision, a positive declaration under seeker. But whether this particular application merits that, we may not have a meeting of the minds on it.
But you've also established that you really haven't digged into the application either.
Well, I've watched the presentation, I've attended the public hearings,
Okay.
and I've listened to comments, and I've heard from the applicant on what the application is about. And there certainly and clearly are issues of stormwater management, and I don't disagree with some of the residents who suggested, and I've seen over the years, that I've never seen an applicant say that impacts can't be
Okay.
mitigated. So and the degree to which they can be studied even further may be beneficial. This is a very large project, and taking the closest, sharpest look on it may be beneficial to the town.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add that the record on this application is quite extensive, so I believe you have enough documentation to allow you to make the judgment that you need to make.
And if it's a positive declaration, then we're going to be instructing the preparation of an EIS.
Correct.
That's why I'm asking, is there anything to be gained by doing an EIS? Is there additional information that will be uncovered through an environmental review process that has not been presented in the record yet?
I think that was a question.
Yeah,
for you.
I mean, does
Yeah.
anybody have an opinion on that? Because that's kind of the crux of what we're deciding.
And if, to be candid, if you believe the record is missing information, you should let the applicant know that now, so they can supplement whatever information you believe is missing. But you've heard from all of your consultants, all of the town staff, that the information you have before you addresses the concerns. Whether you agree or not is the decision you have to make now.
I, for one, think that the record is complete. There are parts of this project that I struggle with, but we're not looking to approve this tonight. I don't know that I would learn anything from additional environmental research and presentation in EIS. And if there is something, we should, yeah, as you say, we should let them know what's coming.
Okay. Any thoughts or comments based on that? Going once, going twice, going 3 times.
So if you're not prepared to make that decision now, you can wait the 10 days till the public comment period is complete, so you have Mr. Quigley's comments, the rest of the public comment, whatever Mr. Cabby may have, and that may influence your decision one way or another.
Okay.
But that would, it's 10 days. When is our next meeting? We would have to kind of tie it into that.
May 18th.
I am a little hesitant about, as much as I do respect what the CIC does, I feel it's kind of late in the game for that. But Mr. Quigley, has comments too, so.
And you're not limiting public comment, so by establishing a written comment period, anyone can comment or provide additional information, so you don't know what would be delivered to you during that period.
Okay, so what do we want to do as a board then?
We can wait, just as you're suggesting, wait until probably our next meeting, till the public comments are in, and then we can make the determination about a positive or negative in case something comes in that, sheds light on something that we haven't considered. Everybody okay?
Is that in the form of a motion?
We need a motion?
Yeah, you're not taking action on
We're not
that,
taking
so you don't
action.
need a motion on that.
Okay. I'm comfortable with that.
I am too.
Anybody else? Okay. All right, so what does that mean? That
So
means,
we'll place this on the next agenda.
Yep.
And at that point, you'll direct preparation of a negative declaration or positive declaration.
okay. Okay, and that's it for 95 Bratterston. Thank you. Okay, next up is new public hearing. 2 Walker Road, proposed solar photovoltaic panels installed on the roofs of the UV treatment building on the generator building using a rack and rail system, underground electric and equipment pad. Application site plan PSP 26-3, location 2 Walker Road, Valhalla, section block lot numbers 116.16-1-2, zone OB2, owner, Department of Water, SUP, GE, what does that mean? It's too long, okay. Applicant engineers, Amoresco, Stephen McDonough.
It's a new public hearing. I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the public notice.
Motion from Jane,
Second.
second from Eileen. Steve?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Walter?
Aye.
And an aye for me.
Greetings, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Steve McDonough from Amoresco, and here to present the project of a rooftop solar project at 2 Walker Road. The project will consist of photovoltaic panels on the building of the UV treatment building, roughly 601 kilowatts on the UV building, and on the 4-bay building, there'll be 177 kilowatts of solar. There'll be underground utility connected to the equipment pad, from the panel boards of the buildings, and there'll be a 7-foot chain link fence around the equipment pad. So that's the extent of the project. When we came here and presented,
If anybody,
last-
I just realized we're in public. If anybody here from the public would like to see this, come on up. We can turn and pivot this around a little bit so people can see this. This is for 2 Walker Road. You can pivot
and
this a little bit.
and I can plug in my computer too, if that's better.
Actually, if you can do that, because I think we're here for the public. I just realized this is a public hearing.
Yeah, I can do that. Give me 2 minutes.
Yep.
see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So should I go through that again?
No, we're good.
Okay. All right, and the one outstanding item that Mr. Cleary had was confirmation that the building heights were less than 40 feet. We had a survey team go out there in March 19th, and we provided the survey to the town planning board and zoning board. And the maximum height of the UV building was 30.1 feet. The maximum height of the four-bay building was 38.8 feet. With the solar panels, that adds another 6 to 8 inches on top of the buildings, and that would bring the maximum building height to 39.9 feet. So those are my only comments. And
Okay. Anything else?
no,
That's it. Don't sell past the sale. Okay. Any questions or comments from board members, though? Okay. There's no additional questions or comments from board members. Let the record show. We are here for a public hearing. Would anybody like here tonight speak about 2 Walker Road proposed solar, I'm not going to read this whole thing, solar panels installed on the roofs of the UV treatment building, yada, yada, yada. In Valhalla, 2 Walker Road. Anybody here tonight for this? Going once, going twice, going 3 times? Okay, thank you. Let the record show there's no additional comments or questions from the public for 2 Walker Road. Okay, with that being said, we do have a public hearing that's open. We have no additional comments or questions from board members. We have a public hearing that's open, so what is the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion from Eileen,
I second it.
second from Steve. Steve?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Walter?
Aye.
And aye from me. So the public hearing is closed. So now we are at the next question. What do we want to do with the application itself for the site plan PSP 26-3?
I make a motion that we direct the preparation of an approval resolution.
Motion from Eileen,
Second?
second from Jane. Walter?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
And aye from me. I'm keeping you guys guessing in the order. Okay. So we are good to go then. There's nothing else for us to
Okay.
do.
And what are the next steps? Is it the next meeting that you would vote on the resolution?
The next meeting, a business item, they'll vote on the resolution.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
You should be at that
Yeah.
meeting. Just,
Okay.
Okay, next up on the agenda is 50 Deerfield Lane South. Installation of a 35-foot times 24-foot pool with patio in the rear yard. Adjacent patio intrudes into the wetland buffer of the drainage ways. Application, wetland number W25-04, location 50 Deerfield Lane, South Pleasantville, section block lot numbers 107.5-1-5, zone R40, owner Gerard Salvaggio, applicant engineers Daniel Sherman. Welcome, thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
You can
Hello,
grab the
Dan
mic.
Sherman, landscape architect, and we are back here for the public hearing.
Yes.
For the presentation.
I was going to say, I didn't want Steve to miss it.
Oh, Steve
One
never misses
moment.
anything.
It's another
Thank you.
new public hearing. I will make a motion
Oh.
to waive the reading of the public notice.
Thank you, Jane.
I second it.
So we have a motion from Jane and a second from Steve. Steve?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Walter? And an aye from me. Okay, you're up.
Okay, so the main change since the last meeting was that we relocated the perimeter fence to be in, and I'll tell the distances as I show the map, in from the flagged wetland line. And so, do I need this for the record?
Yes, you can,
Along the south side, we're 10 feet in. The green line, dotted line, dashed line is the flagged wetland on both sides, in the north and the south. And here we move the fence in 10 feet. And we have plantings along the way between the fence and the edge of the brook, or the stream, or the water course. And the plantings kind of go meandering inside and out, so it will look quite natural. And the fence is a 6-foot aluminum picket fence with 4-inch openings, and it's 2 inches above the ground to meet New York State code, but there's no bar on the bottom, so it creates these 4-inch openings. And further along where there's a pine tree, we're 15 feet in with the fence, and then here on the north side, we're 14 feet in. It goes right along inside the existing plantings. That's the principal change, I think.
Did
And
you,
then,
s- did you see the note from the CAC today?
no, not today, no.
I did read the letter from Stephen, thank you for that. And my comment as the homeowner, Gerard Salvaggio for the record, is that we believe, my hope is that the board would consider 2 inches of clearance from the bottom, along with 4 inches between every post to be sufficient to let any sort of wildlife that would get through. It's not that different from the 6 inches from the bottom that the CAC is proposing. So to me, I can't think of much wildlife that can't get through a 6-inch opening that can't get through a 4-inch opening. Additionally, I just want to point out for the record that Kellen had some comments that he submitted in late March of the New York Wetland Services, and his comments were that because the brooks connect in the back, that wildlife should be able to traverse this way around it, and that according to him, not much wildlife is going to traverse across the yard, anyway, that couldn't fit through these openings. But his biggest point was that the connections would help. So my hope is that the board would consider the openings that the fence has, along with the fact that the waterways connect to allow for any sort of wildlife to fit through.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from you or your representative?
Not really.
Okay. Any questions or comments from board members?
The 4-inch, that's within the pool code, right? 4-inch between. Okay.
New York State,
Yeah.
which is the same as Pleasantville. Some towns have varied it, Scarsdale is 2 inches, different, many towns, but New York State standard is what Pleasantville uses.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
It wouldn't matter what Mount Pleasant code would apply.
Okay, so any other questions or comments from board members?
I have, go ahead.
You can go first.
I have a couple of comments. I like the landscaping improvements. It's a beautiful neighborhood with deep, beautiful lawns, front yards, and I'm put off by a 6-foot fence that looks like a cage coming so far out, and I was wondering if you would consider aligning it with the rear wall of your house and unenclosing that whole area in the front, because it's atypical for the neighborhood to have a big, fence going in. And it would keep that buffer area more exposed, you'd have a lot less fencing. You'd protect the pool, you'd protect your backyard, but that whole area up front would then remain the same.
I appreciate that, and we considered everything from the rear of the house, also to the front of the house, I think could look a little bit more in line. There's a lot of space between here. This doesn't do a good job of showing it, but there's a significant amount of space between here and the sidewalk. Yeah. The reason we did this is we're just a very active family, and we would love to use the space without having to cut it in half. So just was hopeful to play soccer here and truly use the space while we're in the backyard and not have a fence completely covered. I have a massive front yard. Like from this side of my property to here is huge. Yeah. And grass is growing in nicely. Everything's looking good. But we don't use it. It's because of the way we gravitate towards the back of the house. Like I don't put soccer nets in front of the house. I don't put the kids' lacrosse goals in front of the house. I put it all in the back. So the goal would be to plant this so that it looks completely, we're not showing any of the fence. And there are some properties on the corner of Deerfield Lane South and Bear Ridge, one of them where they have a pool there, and they do have some arborvitaes and fencing, and it does look natural. So I would like to preserve as much usable yard for activities without having to cut it in half.
Understood.
The fence is behind the plant.
I know, it's kind of cutting off the front yard. Not a deal breaker, but I don't love it. Also, it looks like you've got a two-car garage, space for 6 cars in the parking area that you have, and now parking for 4 more cars. Like, why are you, well, that's like 50 feet by 20 feet. It seems like there's enough for 4 cars there.
Yeah, so
why so
the-
much paving? Because I just felt like when I was looking at it, like your whole front yard, that's gorgeous,
Yes.
is going to be gone.
There will, I can't deny that the fence being up here will cut into this part of the front yard, although I do believe there's a lot of space, and this will cut into some of it. The truth of it is our house pushes people towards the back of the house. When you get there and you park here, there's a big element of like, you get out of your car and you kind of walk through the back. We wanted there to be an option to park and make your way to the front of the house. Like, it's just, we feel like we would get a lot of use out of having this here and having visitors really park here while we would still park here. That's sort of again, a lot of property. I mean, there's so much space here that we never use that I don't want to in any way destroy the integrity of the look, but I do want to try to use it a bit more. I have a basketball hoop here that I would love to play more basketball with, and like just be able to park a couple cars here. Sometimes when we park here, we park down the driveway. It's just it's not impossible, but it's just there is so much space to use, and that'd be my ask. And my neighbors are fully supportive of the project. I got 3 letters of support, not one objection, and I just wanted to point that out for the record.
Okay.
The fence in the front, what is the landscaping? I see there's landscaping circles. What are you planting on, and that's on the outside of the fence?
The shrubbery and
The
the
red
trees are on
line?
the, oh, those are arborvitaes.
And they're on the outside of the
On
fence?
the outside, to screen the fence.
Okay.
Okay. Walter, I think you had a question, right?
Yes. The Westchester Wetland Services and the CAC recommend using native species in the wetland buffer area. And you're using arborvitae, which is not native.
Well, I have an arborvitae screening the fence, but the other ones are, I'll read the list. This eastern red, the white spruce and the green giants are up front. But around the back, it's mountain laurel and serviceberry, clethra is native, the viburnum, and all the perennials and the ferns are native. So.
But along the streamline, is there arborvitae there, or
No.
you have native species?
These are existing arborvitae, but I'm not adding any new ones. There's ferns along the edge of the bank that Kellen wanted me to add, and
Then what about the left side?
the left side is ferns, the northern white cedar. That's a northern native cedar. The viburnum, the clethra, holly, mountain laurel. So, I think it's native.
Just one more thing, the CAC is very concerned about a fence around the property, so to speak, near the wetlands delineation line. My kids continue to go into these wetlands all the time. Soccer balls roll in, which is why we see neighbors put up fences, and fences that have no clearance whatsoever with them, never mind 2 inches and 4 inches of clearance. Continuously going in, in some ways they're climbing down, climbing up, any sort of bank is going to get eroded. So, to me, from the moment I've lived there, I've wanted to put a fence up, because as they've gotten older and we play soccer, they kick the ball a lot harder. And it's just going flying in there. I mean, they must have went in 20 times the other day in 20 minutes to get the ball. And we play baseball and lacrosse. So to me, it's just a function of it keeps them out of it more, and we can plant stuff. And I think the wetlands report from Kellen was very supportive of the plantings should help wildlife there versus nothing right now.
You can give a kid a beautiful flat piece of grass,
And they'll find it.
and they'll skip the grass, they'll go right to the stream.
That's for sure. They're getting a little bit, some of them get a little bit older, they want to play, but my 4-year-old still traverses in there, yes.
Okay.
We had a gate, so they can get to the stream through the gate.
Hold on, Steve. Hold on, Steve. Let's just let them wrap up. Are you? Hold on. Are you guys done?
No, that's why I'm saying.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Stephen Cavey, Conservation Advisory Council Chair. There's a lot of issues that the applicant just raised. I hope I can remember them all. I wasn't carefully taking notes. which I should have done, but I think I'll address them all. But let me start with one really important basic fact. We've got a wetlands code that requires a 50-foot buffer. That 50-foot buffer around wetlands, which by the way is de minimis. Well, that's not maybe not the
Agreed.
exact term. It's a very small buffer. Typically, 100 feet is not unusual in most municipalities. It's recommended in the master plan that we change that. Many municipalities have a 150-foot buffer. Many municipalities who have an application like this with a pool within the buffer would outright reject it. This plan has a pool within. Look, this is a property that has constraints. I'm sympathetic to that. There's no question about it. You buy a house with a water course on either side of it, then you are subject to the codes which have placed specific restrictions in order to maintain and manage the wetlands and water courses on your property. That's the situation that we have right now. So there is a 50-foot buffer, and the plan calls for, among other things, a pool that exceeds to some extent within the buffer. That's one issue. This planning board can make some decision with some sympathy for the applicant and maybe consider that the pool itself, it's not what we would recommend because the buffer is there and it's not meant to be encroached. But that's one issue. The other issue that the planning board is dealing with, that the application is looking for, is one that's even more disturbing, and by that I mean more than one way. There's disturbance in the buffer, and it's disturbing in how the code would be read and how the planning board would deal with the code. The idea of placing a fence along the perimeter of two water courses that restricts access, but and there are two issues here. There are many multiple issues. There's a fence that restricts access, but beyond that, it's a fence within the wetlands buffer. As a practice, the CAC has typically, over the years, strongly recommended against fences within wetlands buffers. And there are good reasons for that. Now, the town's wetlands consultant suggests that there's a good possibility that wildlife may find their way to the corner and traverse at that point. But the code isn't designed to guess at what wildlife may choose to do. The code is designed to protect natural resources to the maximum extent possible. That's what the code is designed to do. And while there may be other possibilities for wildlife traverse across this buffer, by placing a fence there along the entire extent of it, even though it's no longer within the actual wetlands, but now just within the buffer, that's not good practice. Even if you were to put a fence there, and we've seen applications with small fenced areas that have minor encroachment into wetlands buffers. In every case that we've seen that here in the town, the gap underneath has been sufficient to follow what are best practices to provide access and transit for wildlife. And let me say something. We didn't do a natural resources inventory. We don't know what wildlife is on the site, but we do know that wildlife exists where water exists. And we have two water courses that can support habitat. Also, I want to say that language is important here. The applicant continues to refer to this as a, let me find the exact words, a drainage way. These are not drainage ways. These are water courses, and they're controlled by the Wetlands Code. I think it's important that applications...
He just self-corrected by his facial gestures. He knows he's saying...
It was said once in the initial application,
right.
And I've always considered them to be wetlands and respect the fact that they're wetlands since then.
Okay.
The record shows drainage ways.
Okay.
The application shows drainage ways. The correspondence all shows drainage ways. That minimizes the definition of what this is. Anyway, look, Mr. Chairman, you've got a long agenda. I think I've tried to make it very clear that Wetlands should be protected. Wetlands buffers should be protected. Fences do not belong within wetlands buffers. Pools are not, it's not unusual to see applications with pools with some encroachment into the buffer area. That is a separate issue. There are other mitigating things that could and should and maybe should be done, specifically the additional permeable, well, it's permeable, but it's still an encroachment. More patio space could be reduced, but that's, you know, but the more egregious part is the idea of putting a fence along the corridors of these wetlands corridors, and a fence that does not provide for transit that the best practices would suggest.
Okay.
In short, our recommendation, which we said in the letter, is put a fence around the pool.
Yeah.
And frankly, in other municipalities, move the pool, reduce the patio, reduce the impacts in the buffer, keep the buffer as pristine as possible as the code would provide. And I want to say I do support and appreciate the wetlands plantings, the buffer areas, the transitional plantings. They are native. Green giants are not, as Walter pointed out, as we said in our letter. But the landscaping plan is nice. That's not the mitigation for this kind of encroachment. It's a natural and it's the proper way to do landscaping. It doesn't mitigate against the impacts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just my final point is, I'm committed to building a fence here one way or the other for the reasons I mentioned. We want to play. We don't want to continue to go into these waterways. We don't want to continue to go down there. So in the fence, in my eyes, if the CAC is saying it needed to be 6 inches and the board were to vote that way, I would then have a fence here and another one here for hopefully 6 inches that I would get positive approval for. So to me, like, there's so, I truly, truly believe we are doing more to protect these wetlands by building and protecting them with a fence. Any wildlife, in my opinion, and I've lived there for 10 years, I see what traverses the property. A deer's not going to get through the 6 inches, and it won't get through the 2 and the 4, but everything else will. And I really believe we're protecting it. And I understand what Steve is saying by the letter of the code, but I just think a little bit of like kind of, I don't know, more like common sense too. It's keeping us out. It's planting species that will help habitat grow. And there is connection behind it that I just, from my perspective, there's not much harm done to any real thing. The most wildlife can still traverse through, and that's my point in terms of trying to keep my kids and have stuff continuing to fall into the stream. Everything banks down, banks down, banks down. So it's just, we're continuously in there.
Make it brief if you don't mind.
Very, very quickly. 6 inches is the minimum recommended best practice for a fence. The other is, we had an application not that dissimilar from this a couple of years ago on Bedford Road, where an applicant wanted to build a fence around a pond. And she was instructed that there were very specific conditions and restrictions that would be involved in doing that. And she elected not to build the fence that required the permit. Instead, she moved the fence outside of the buffer. Now, that's not an option here, but the point is that the code was, the engineering department responded, the CAC responded, the code was clarified and defined, and she chose to not have to subject herself to a wetlands permit, and instead kept the fence out of the buffer.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments from board members?
I have a question. Does the town of Mount Pleasant require a building permit for installation of a fence? Okay.
Yeah. And
So we were going to see them either way, if with or without a pool.
That's correct.
I think,
And there's some confusion about this 4 and 6 inches, so are you talking about the distance between the pickets of the fence? So that's a state code requirement, and I don't believe it's 4 inches, so we just asked the building inspector, he's getting back to us with that answer, so you don't have a choice, it is a code requirement. The 6 inches Steve is talking about, I believe, is the distance between the bottom of the fence, right? So I just want,
Okay, so,
Joe has just clarified it's 2 inches, not 4 inches.
Okay, so we are here for a public hearing though. So I want to make sure we give an opportunity for the public, if there is public here to speak on this tonight. Before we do that, just do one final questions and comments round with the board. Any final questions or comments?
Can I just say, I completely agree with Steve Cavey about the fencing and wetland buffer, but my commitment to that is tempered by the fact that this is a mowed lawn. This is already a field. It's not in a natural state. It's not, there aren't critters living on the lawn there now. It's your yard. It's your used yard. So I don't feel, you know, as protective of it as if this were in a natural state and you were mowing down everything to create your backyard and your field. So I'm weighing, you know, those things.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Let the record show there's no additional questions or comments. Okay, so we're here for a public hearing. Is there anybody here tonight who would like to address the board on 50 Deerfield Lane, installation of a 35-foot by 24-foot pool in Pleasantville, 50 Deerfield Lane? Anybody here tonight to address the board on 50 Deerfield? Come on up.
Nancy Gaudatz,
Welcome.
816. Hello again. Sleepy Hollow Road, Mount Pleasant. I mean, I feel for you because it's your property and you want to do what you want to do. But I would just echo that there is a town code, the buffer, and you should apply the town code. It's that simple. And in fact, the strategic plan, I can't think of the right name right this second.
Comprehensive plan.
Thank you, comprehensive plan, is to increase it.
Yeah.
Not even like be crazy, just increase it to match most of the towns around us. And we keep going back to the fact that we should be codifying that
Agreed.
the comprehensive plan, but that's not your job, I understand.
Thank God.
Yeah. But I think there was a spirit there,
Yep.
you know, going in the right direction. And so I don't know why you're even considering compromising. I get it. I think it's a problem, you know, but it needs to be enforced. Somewhere, somebody has to say, this is the code. I'm sorry people have drawn up additional plans. That was all that needed to be said. So that's my input, please.
Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Okay, any other questions or comments from public? Let the record show there's no additional comments or questions from the public. Okay, so we have a public hearing open. What is the pleasure of the board in the public hearing itself?
I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Motion from Eileen,
Seconded?
second from Steve. Walter,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and I for me the public hearing. This is now closed. Okay, so what is the thoughts from the board on the application itself?
Yeah, in addition to Mr. Cavey's response, you know, the town engineer has also weighed in, and he duly notes in his memo that, you know, the structures are within the wetland buffer and they reduce the effectiveness of protecting the wetlands / stream. So not only the CAC, but the town engineer has also weighed in on this matter.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? We have a public hearing that's closed. We need to make a decision on what we want to do with the application itself tonight. I'll tell you, I'm a little struggling with the fence myself too, because either we have a wetland buffer rule or we don't. And that's my personal struggle with it. And I get it's a constrained lot and you have a need to use the lawn to its fullest maximum potential. But I'm struggling with the videos I see repeatedly of flooding in the town. And a lot of things happening throughout the town constantly where there's floods and people are getting severe damage. I don't know about your neighbor having flooding issues, but the wetland buffer for me, should be closer to sacrosanct than we sometimes let it be. And that's just my personal take on it. Any other thoughts from questions from the board members?
No. Did we ever propose any alternatives? I remember early on
We did.
that there were not really any.
Well, we did talk about the pool, the fence around the pool.
Right. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm a little soft-spoken tonight.
We were
I'm trying not
talking-
to be a yeller.
My question was about any other alternatives that were proposed, and I remember it was just a fence around the pool.
And we agreed to turn all the pavers around the pool into permeable pavers to allow drainage to come through. I mean, I do want to reiterate here, I'm not trying to blow smoke. We truly are going to protect the wetlands more by having people stop going into them all the time, going up and down the bank, putting more plantings there, having space for any wildlife to come through that would normally come through. And this is all manicured lawn anyway. I'm just trying to, and my lawn is, I put a lot of money into my property. My grass is spectacular. That lady who spoke, I don't think she's ever seen my house, but if she would have come see it, it's beautiful. I spend a lot of money and time making sure my house looks very nice, and this is all very nice. And I will do the same thing with this project. I'm just asking for support to build a pool for my family on what is already manicured lawn.
But I do think, I think in the beginning of this process, I think there were a couple comments from board members expressing concern about the fence and its location from the beginning. I mean, that's a fair statement, correct?
Yes, it's a fair statement.
So the application really never really changed since then. It's,
We pushed the fence further back as per Kellen's,
Yeah.
and my original intention was to have it as not be a slotted fence, was to be a fully paneled vinyl fence. But in the effort to get as much wildlife through, I've agreed to make it a slotted fence.
okay. Okay. Anything else from the board?
My one thought, it seems I have a lot, but is, are we protecting, frankly, I don't really have a problem with the pool, but with the fence, are we protecting the environmental feature, the wetlands, to the maximum extent practicable, to get you what you want and still protect? And how much, does a fence impact that?
Yeah, I guess I question, I would say, what is the negative to the fence? There's 90, I can't think of an animal that can't get through something with 6 inches of clearance, which is what the CAC letter said, with this clearance. It's protecting balls and other things from going into the wetlands all the time, including my children. And and we will do all these plantings to make it a better wetlands with more sufficient wildlife.
Fences are not natural features. Wetlands buffers are meant to be natural features. Fences are implanted with material that creates unnatural features and unnatural material into the buffer area. You may feel that this particular specific application doesn't seem that big a deal. But there's a death by 1,000 cuts. Every time an application comes before a reviewing authority and the code is not followed to the best possible way to provide the very best protection for our shared natural resources, we undermine the value of these protective codes. And I think it's important, as much as, and I do sympathize with the homeowner. He has a piece of property that is challenging. He bought a house with a water course on either side, and he's trying to build a pool. The fence is the wrong place. Does not belong in a buffer. It's not how the law was designed. It's not the best way to follow the code.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Okay, so it's 9:11, and I know we have a full agenda, so not to push things through, but I have to push a little bit. Okay, so we did close the public hearing, correct? Okay, I forget now. So what is the pleasure of the board on the application itself?
Mr. Chairman, if I could help, so the option is direct the preparation of an approval resolution for the plan as proposed, a denial resolution of the plan as proposed. If you were to propose that, I'd be willing to bet the applicant would think of alternatives, like the fence around the pool or a natural fence. You know, a hedge is effectively a fence as well. They've added landscaping, but you can supplement the landscaping to function as a fence. So if you were to indicate you would deny this plan, I'd be willing to bet Mr. Sherman will think again about alternatives.
So, and
But
if,
a hedge would not be within pool code, like you would have to be.
It's natural planting. If
But
it were-
but it's not within New York State pool code.
Pool, again, the pool would have to be fenced to meet the code.
Yes.
But the problem of soccer balls going down into the creek could be accommodated by a natural plant.
So it would be fencing just the pool perimeter and then adding,
Which would achieve the owner's
Mm-hmm.
objective in some ways and still be sensitive to the environmental concerns you're hearing expressed tonight.
I'm so sorry, the last thing, the point of considering a hedge versus a slotted fence, I think there's a little bit of being lost in terms of what the wetlands code says. The spirit of it versus reality of what we're dealing with, things are still gonna be impeded and things can go through more with the slotted aluminum fence that is on manicured grass. That's my last point, sorry.
okay. What do you guys want to do?
I struggle with it. I agree with Eileen, though, it's already manicured grass. You know, and I do struggle with it, and I do think that the 50-foot buffer, it is what is now. I think it should be more, but this is the application that we have in front of us now. Do I love it? No, but, you know, it is your property, and you should be able to use it, so. Those
So-
are my feelings.
Okay, so we need to move this along a little bit. So do we have a motion? Or not? We don't have to have a motion theoretically.
Sooner or later, you
We do.
We do, yeah, we keep kicking it down.
I'll make a motion for denial.
You have a motion from Walter. Do we have a second? Procedurally, I'll just say, I would have, can I second?
Yeah, sure.
Then I'm going to second that.
So now, if I were the applicant, I might determine how you want to handle that.
Not sure what the order is here, so
they've just directed a denial for that plan. You can accept that, in which case you can't build that, or you can think of something else and come back to the board with an alternative.
okay, and that's like the majority vote is the denial, just to be clear?
They haven't voted on it yet, so the motion is before them, they haven't
So
voted.
we
But
can-
if they act on it and deny it,
Oh,
you lose
sorry,
your
sorry,
opportunity.
yes, okay, I didn't know I had it, sorry, thank you. I was like I'm concerned that if more people say denied, then I can't make a change after the fact, and then no, I would concede to bring the fence around the pool, but I would still like to build a fence around the property for all the reasons I mentioned. Keep my kids out of it, keep the sporting equipment out of it, and so if that's a 6-inch fence, I just don't really think we accomplished a lot of 2 inches of clearance. I'm sorry for being a little passionate about it.
But your objective was the pool.
Yes.
Was your objective the pool or the fence along the river? Or the
Well,
stream? or whatever it's
again,
called?
for years I've wanted to put a fence there, and now in the sense of a year ago I decided to do this pool and put the application before the town of Mount Pleasant, and it came to the planning board. I said, okay, well then we'll do the fence then, and it all kind of came together in that regard. I've wanted to do a fence for years there, for years.
I get it, but also the wetland buffer has a different desire than what you desire. And And I'll just say one last time, like I've said it many times, Google Town of Mount Pleasant flooding. I don't know about flooding on Deerfield Lane, but the flooding in this town is tremendous. And I personally feel we need to be much more diligent than we've been for the last 50 years as a society with protecting the wetland buffer. So,
I respect that completely. I guess what I would say is for the effort, for this motion, I would, because I'm now nervous that I'm going to get another negative vote, I will move the fence around the pool, but if the CAC's letter today said that they recommend 6 inches of clearance, I'm going to also be, I guess, hope maybe not in front of the planning board, maybe that can just go through the building permit to build a fence with 6 inches of clearance. I really do want to stop things from continuously rolling in there, a lot of things. Power wheels, just stuff, like it's just, things keep, like everything that has a little bit of motion rolls into the ravine.
I get your dilemma, but we have to, either we respect the wetland buffer or we don't. That's my take as one board member. So, okay, so are we going to go back?
We have a motion and a second. You can request an adjournment if you'd like to do that. Or
I don't know what
for
the
board-
right,
the
I
board-
wish I had a lawyer. I don't know if the, then I request an adjournment.
All right, thank you. Okay, and we'll see you again.
Yeah, so just formally withdraw the motion.
Oh, okay.
So that's your disposal by withdrawing the motion.
So Walter has to withdraw the motion? Is that what he has to do?
Make a motion to withdraw the
Motion.
Walter from Walter. And who seconded it? It was me.
Yeah.
Oh, me. I'm a little
Thank
tired
you.
today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Okay. Okay, now we're going into non-public hearings, which means we're not going to be listening too much to the public, more to the applications. But next is up 11 Suzanne Lane, grade rear yard to make usable family space. Application steep slopes SS 26-4. Location 11 Suzanne Lane, Thornwood, New York. Section block lot number is 107.5-3-40. Zone R40. Owner Tom Skew. Is that the right way to say that?
Secure.
Skew, thank you. Applicant engineer is Jonathan Villani and Associates. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Good evening. Jonathan Villani, representing Annunziata and the Villani Design Consultants regarding 11 Suzanne Lane for the Siku residents. We were in front of the engineer for their steep slopes permit, obviously. It was back and forth with Suzanne when she was there. We performed soil testing. We received one contaminant that was a little high in level, and it was in agreement that we would put some verbiage in the C of O containing stipulation that they couldn't grow in that area, of vegetation in that area. We received comments from Cleary Consulting that we've addressed on the drawings since the comments were issued. We are not bringing in any more soil. We're not removing any soil. We're just regrading the property as is with the soil that was brought in, that was tested. It was part of an application that they're proposing to do a new deck, so they were trying to level out the property to make it usable in the rear yard. At this point, it seems that we've addressed all comments. I don't know if Pat has any additional comments, if Cleary Consulting has any additional comments, and the engineering comments were very minimal in nature. And there's no impervious surface being constructed on the property on the regraded soil, so there's no additional drainage.
So the question we have tonight for this is this ready for a public hearing or not? And I think we have read everything, seen everything, and understand everything to be ready for the, you have anything else to add?
No.
Anything else to add? No. Any questions or comments from board members? Okay. So for 11 Suzanne Lane, do we want to entertain a motion to schedule a public hearing? Because they've buttoned up all the loose ends and they're ready to talk to us, yes or no?
I'll make a motion to schedule the public hearing.
Motion from Jane,
Second it.
second from Steve. Walter?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
And I for me. Okay, we're good to go. Okay, next up, new application, 388 Nantahagan Road, construction of a new accessory apartment on the ground level of an existing home. Application accessory apartment PAA 26-1, location 388 Nantahagan Road, Thornwood, New York. Section block lot number is 107.17-2-12, zone R40. Owner Thomas Cara, applicant the architect Jonathan Villani, Associate. Joe, you're back.
I'm here, yes. Actually, probably better if I show this first. Jonathan Villani, representing 388 Nantahagan Road for the Cara residents, a proposed accessory apartment in the basement. We've presented and had a couple meetings with Clear Consulting as well as Sal Pinella regarding, and Joe Briganti regarding the accessory apartment in the basement of the existing residence. The homeowners have a daughter that's living with them with a daughter that has special needs, so they're moving into the apartment in the basement. So we've addressed all the requirements by the accessory apartments, and it seems to comply with all of them as concurred by Cleary Consulting. We plan on constructing a kitchen and bathroom in the basement for a proposed accessory apartment roughly 569 square feet. There was a building inspection performed on Friday. I've spoken to Manny, the building inspector. There was two concerns. One was he wanted me to add an entry to the apartment from the outside at the rear of the building, which we've done there. As well, he was concerned with, I had an as-built survey performed on the property, and there's a pool on the property. So we were working with an old survey that didn't have the existing pool that's there. So he was just concerned about the addition that we're putting on the house in reference to the 20 feet to a pool edge. But it has nothing to do with the apartment, but it was just a concern of his. But besides that, I think his concerns, he had no other concerns besides those.
I had a question. It looks like the addition is about 600 square feet, and the existing space is about 618 square feet. So don't you blow through the 600 square foot limit for an accessory apartment?
Well, on my drawings, it's 569 square feet. That's the, I've done a net hashed area of the apartment.
Yeah.
So the hashed area includes all the walls in the bathroom. So hold on, just let me
Just,
take this
yeah,
out.
what part, because you have the
So-
addition in the back there.
So this addition is not part of the, this is a
Okay.
separate permit, yeah.
Okay.
So this is actually the actual apartment right here.
Okay, I misunderstood. I was
Yes,
adding
yes,
those two
so-
together and saying.
Well, there was a long
1,200.
discussion, it was a long discussion from a scheduling standpoint, whether or not we were including their addition as part of the accessory apartment permit, or trying to combine the two, or whether we should do them separately or not. But simultaneously, I drew both, so
Okay, so the apartment is just,
in the existing, as required by the accessory apartment requirements, you can only have it in the existing structure. So it's in the existing structure.
and those 3 bedrooms and office would be accessed how?
From the staircase, so this wall right here, this hatched wall right here,
Yeah.
totally separates this apartment from the communal staircase, the staircase that's going to the first floor for the main residence.
Okay.
So the main residents can access this through here and come to here.
Okay, any other questions or comments from board members? Okay, let the record show there's no additional questions or comments from board members. We have dotted all the i's and crossed the t's.
Mr. Chairman, this fully complies with the 13 special permit criteria for the accessory apartment.
Okay, so the decision the board needs to make is,
Schedule a public hearing.
do we want to schedule a public hearing, yes or no?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to schedule the public hearing.
Motion from Jane,
Second.
second from Walter. Walter?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
And aye for me. You're good to go.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up. It's also a new application. Major subdivision of 2 parcels of former Rockefeller property totaling 214.41 acres into 65 parcels to develop an 18-hole golf course, fully amenitized country club at Village Green, and approximately 75 single-family homes and townhouses. Application also includes a petition for a text amendment to change the language of the section 218-43 nonprofit membership clubs. Application of subdivision PST 26-4, site plan PSP 26-4, steep slopes PLLSS 26-7, wetlands PLW 26.1, special use PLSU 26.2, town board, no, it's location, this is blending into each other here a little bit. Okay, location 835 855 Sleepy Hollow, Barcliff Manor. Section block lot number is 11.8-1-1, 104.20-1-1. Zone R40, owner and applicant South Rock LLC, DBA Fable Club LLC, engineer architect GMC Engineer and Site Development Company, attorney Zarin Steinmetz. Oh my goodness, that's a lot. Welcome, thank you for coming out tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. David Steinmetz from the law firm of Zarin Steinmetz. Pleased to be back before you this evening. As the chair indicated, we are here on behalf of Southworth Development and its development partner Pecanico Hills Group, together South Rock LLC. Pecanico Hills actually is comprised of some members of the Rockefeller family. We're here sort of for a do-over, so I'm going to take a step back. We were here last month after initially filing with the town board and being asked to come in connection with a minor referral from the town board with regard to a text amendment. We did a full presentation for your board at that time. However, there was no formal application pending at that time for any official planning board action. So we conferred with staff and we were told to come back and sort of do the presentation again for those members of the public who may not have known that we were going to be here last month doing essentially the presentation. So bear with us. I know it's late. I know you've had a fairly extensive meeting. We're going to try to be efficient, but we want to make sure that the record is complete and that the public has an opportunity, Mr. Chairman, to hear the application. So I'm joined by our full development team. I will not introduce everyone for the sake of efficiency, but suffice it to say that Troy Miller from Southworth, our project manager and golf course designer, is here. Members of JMC, our engineers and planning consultants, are here. Members of AKRF, our planning consultant and EIS team, as well as my colleague Vincent Padone. The application that we have before us is to develop a wonderful piece of property that has been in the Rockefeller family for essentially a century. That property was acquired by Southworth last year, and as I explained to you last month, that acquisition, that sale and acquisition only took place after members of the family sort of vetted what they wanted to see this magnificent property reused and redeveloped as, and by whom. So Southworth was actually selected by the family because the concept was to keep a substantial amount of this 200+ acre property open space, scenic, attractive, and most importantly, preserve some of the legacy structures that are located on the property. As we told you last time, this application is for a 18-hole championship golf course, a private membership country club with associated amenities, and 75 homes, substantially leaning towards single-family homes and approximately 18 townhouse dwellings, all of which would be located on the property with a tremendous amount of perimeter buffer. I will let some of my other team members speak to you about that. I mentioned to you that we started this process in front of the town board. We started this process in front of the town board because the code presently allows exactly what we are proposing to do on this property. In fact, the code allows substantially more development in terms of residential units, upwards to 200 residential units. We are not here seeking that. But the code, as Mount Pleasant's code is written, presently only allows for not-for-profit membership clubs. This is proposed to be a for-profit membership club, and as I have discussed with the town attorney and the town professional staff, that's technically something that zoning doesn't normally permit. Zoning is about land use, not land user. So if the use as a country club, golf course, and residential community is the same, whether the operator of the country club portion is a for-profit entity rather than a not-for-profit entity, that's a technical legal issue. It is not a land use issue, as we will go through the process. So we have filed an application to the town board. We have a zoning text amendment pending in front of the town board that would clean up that and would also give your board some authority, some additional authority on things such as parking and golf course design.
Not this board. It's not going to give this board additional authority.
So actually, no. Actually, it does. So your board, under the proposed text amendment, Mr. Chairman, would have some authority at the request of staff and the building inspector to allow for the parking analysis to be done correctly. Let me take a step back. We talked about this last time. This provision in the town code has never been used. You have no country club in the town, in the unincorporated portion of the town. So there are aspects of your code that we don't need to get into the weeds tonight, but there are aspects of the code, and I'll defer to Mr. Cleary to explain it to you and to Town Attorney Shafazada, that relate to T to green angles, that relate to parking, both of which sort of didn't make an awful lot of sense. This application would require probably 4 or 5 times more parking than it needs based upon the way the code was originally written. So we have suggested a text amendment that would allow your board, with professional guidance, to make that determination. That text amendment has not yet been adopted, but that's in front of the town board. So that you will not make that decision, the town board will make that decision. So let's reel it back here. What are we here for? We're here because this application requires subdivision approval, site plan approval, special permit approval, wetlands approval, and a steep slopes permit. All of those actions, each and every one of those 5 actions, is something that's jurisdictionally in front of your board, not in front of the town board or anyone else. So as you know from our last meeting, and you know from our correspondence, we have suggested that your board should serve as the lead agency under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act and commence the secret process. We're here tonight simply to commence what will be a comprehensive environmental planning and engineering analysis. We suggest that your board, and I believe the town board has also acknowledged that your board is positioned most appropriately to take the lead in regard to that. So the only action that we have before you tonight is introducing the project formally. We did it once before. We were asked to do it, and we're going to do it again. Present it, allow you to ask us any questions, and allow you to start the secret process. That's it. So that having been said, I think as you indicated, Mr. Chairman, in your introduction, almost all of this property is in the R40 zoning district. A small portion of it is in the R10 zoning district. We'll walk you through that momentarily. I want to also correct something that occurred since we were here last time. No portion of this property is parkland. No one is taking away any of the 1,771 acres that the Rockefeller family has donated to the public for the benefit of the public. That remains intact. In fact, the Aqueduct Trail will continue to traverse alongside this property, and a tremendous amount of this site itself will not only remain open, visible, and attractive, but it will be actually buffered and provide protection for the property as well as for the Aqueduct Trail. So that's one of the reasons why we're excited about this application. This is a wonderful way to make use of this property and not chop it up into the 180 to 200 residential units that would otherwise be allowed, at least mathematically under zoning, and we actually think it could be developed in that fashion under zoning. So with that having been said, I'm going to hand off to Troy. Troy wants to tell you a little bit and tell the public a little bit about Southworth, why they were interested in this property, and how they plan to develop this, much like many of their other residential communities. This is not their first residential community.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the board. My name is Troy Miller. I am the Chief Development Officer for Southworth. We are a private club development community developer around the world. I myself, as a land planner and landscape architect, have spent my career developing communities and developing very special pieces of property, all with a sense of place and authenticity to where they exist in the world. That has been on 3 different continents, and I have been in front of a lot of boards like you, and I certainly respect the role that you have and appreciate what you do for this town. I'd like to tell you a little bit about this project and where it sits for us and why we were drawn to it and why we see this as being an incredible opportunity for the town to do something special. From my perspective, first of all, with our partners in the Rockefeller family coming to this project, this piece of property has an incredible amount of history that we intend to preserve. We have 4 very special buildings that I'll get into a little bit that have been there since the early 1900s that we intend to preserve and utilize as part of our amenity core for the club. And as it relates to the property as a whole, we've really studied this in a way that will provide buffers around the property to protect the areas that are adjacent to the Rockefeller State Park Preserve, as well as the Aqueduct Trail, from any development, and really focused any of the changes in development to this property as much to the center as possible. So as you can see here, the site is surrounded, you can go and go to the next one, is surrounded by the Rockefeller State Park Preserve to the east and to the south, and then the Aqueduct Trail to the west, and down into Rockwood Hall. And so we are generally surrounded in kind of the hole in the donut, so to speak, of all of this state park preserve land. From the perspective of what we are planning here, I'm going to try to take you into 3 dimensions for a second and just talk about what is here on the site and the physical components of the site. This is a dynamic site with a lot of topography, as you would expect in your town. Essentially, this site is almost like a wedding cake. It sets from the middle where you see where we're proposing the clubhouse is kind of one of the higher ridges. The highest ridge we intend to preserve as a open space, and then as you step down to the next level, we have our amenity core and our residential density closest to the center. And then as you step down another level, that is where we intend for the golf course to generally lay. And then as you step down another level, which is closest to our boundaries, we intend to preserve more than 50 acres of open space around the borders to the east, south, and to the west, to really just try to layer in the levels of impact on this property and protect against anything that surrounds it. I will go a little bit into, you can go ahead and go to the next one. Again, from a vision perspective, my goal here is to create something that is incredibly authentic to the site and incredibly authentic to the history that it has, really preserving the legacy of the family. And in a few minutes, you'll hear from Christian Rockefeller, who is passionate about this project and has grown up on this site, and can give you a little bit of insight into what this means to the family. From a golf perspective, again, something that really reflects this place, utilizing the incredible assets you have in your town of granite outcroppings, rock outcroppings, incredible views of the Hudson River, and some really incredible rolling topography that, from my perspective as a golf course architect, which I've designed over a dozen golf courses around the world, is a incredibly suitable site for golf and something that has an opportunity to be really special. I mentioned the amenity core. This is generally where these existing historic buildings lay. A large part of the trail system and building layout were done by the Olmsted firm in the early 1900s. And so we intend not to argue with that, and to keep and preserve those locations and utilize those as our core. So the existing manor home will become our main clubhouse. The existing Angus barn will become a fitness and pool facility, and then the existing stables will be retrofit into a racket facility. Those 3 buildings, along with the gatehouse, which we intend to maintain as the entry to the property, are really the core of this legacy asset that we want to make sure is preserved in every way possible. My goal for this project at the end of the day is that you have the same experience when you drive through that gate today as you do when we're done in 5 or 10 years of this experience of rising up through the property and having this manor house just kind of reveal itself to you in the way that it does today in a very elegant way. I mentioned the gatehouse. This is the entry point off of Sleepy Hollow Road. We intend on maintaining the gatehouse and maintaining this as the primary entry for the property. The Angus barn, again, one of the historic structures that we will retrofit, maintain as much of the building as possible, and be able to utilize it as an amenity for the club. And then the stables, same. And then the manor house is kind of the center asset and probably the center of body heat. And again, as I talk about this, those uses that we're talking about, and you'll see in this presentation, they are drawing people to the middle of the property. The idea here is to maintain that center of activity, the center of energy, the center of body heat in the center of the property, protecting the edges as much as possible. From a residential perspective, we are very early in this process, obviously, but our intention is to make sure that what gets built on the site is appropriate for the site and is also inspired by Rockefeller commissioned architecture with a modern impact over the course of its property. So really honing in on making sure that we are doing something that's authentic to this site and really reflects all the history that it has. And from a site planning perspective, I'm going to turn it over to Diego to talk a bit about the technical stuff.
One quick comment before we hand off to Diego. Troy walked you through the various buildings on the property. We've talked about its size and its magnificent topography. You should all know we would be delighted to get the board out there for a site inspection at the earliest possible date when you are ready. I do think this is an application where getting the board out to conduct a site inspection, whether you do it collectively or individually. Troy and our team are more than happy to schedule that. We have told that to staff, and when you're ready, I would commend that. It would be a wonderful way for you to see these buildings, understand why they're proposing to preserve them and use them the way they are, and how the site can be laid out nicely with a golf course and yet still maintain the buffer. And I'll let Diego walk us through that.
I'm going to follow up quickly before, just in case I don't get another chance. I just wanted to also just express our commitment as Southworth Development to this project and this process. We understand that this is a long process and we take it very seriously. This is not the first time that we've gone through this, and I will commit to being fully transparent and available to help in any way as possible and make sure that we make this as smooth of a process for this board as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Again, just for the record, Diego Villarreal with JMC, engineering consultant for the applicant. We've had an opportunity now to work with them, obviously for the last several months, going back to last year, when we really started working with Troy. You heard a lot about the vision that they had for the property. That was kind of step one, was to really understand what they were trying to accomplish on the property and the different components and the vision that they had for it. At that time was an opportunity where we came in and we helped them start to understand the constraints of the property, the different features on the property, starting with some of the things that Troy spoke about in detail, the topography conditions, how this site slopes from one side to the other, where that ridge line is on the center portion of the site. So starting with a survey of the property, there was a full topographic survey that was prepared, boundary survey, again, just really trying to hone in and understand the different constraints. Even though we are very early in this process, and I know David alluded to this earlier on during the initial presentation as well, we are very early in this process. We are going to go through the full seeker environmental review process, including the preparation of a DEIS. That was something that was discussed early on. We're not coming in looking for a neg deck or anything. We are coming through, getting or requesting a positive declaration, and we'll be initiating that seeker process if this board does decide to do so, where we will be going through that full environmental process. So regardless of the fact that we're really early in this process, it was important to gather this information and to really understand those constraints so that the site plan that was put in front of this board was a plan that was well thought out, that respected those environmental constraints on the property. We've heard a lot about wetlands and watercourses and different features on the property on other applications tonight. Those are things that we've already started to dive into that will be further expanded in the DEIS process. There will be, sections of the DEIS that will be dedicated to that, but it was important that even during this initial phase, we start to identify those environmental features on the property. So understanding where the watercourses are, how they traverse the property, where they're located centrally on the different areas. Again, all of that will evolve as we go through this process, but it was important to start identifying those. And that's what really led to the layout that's before you. As Troy has indicated, the idea is to respect a lot of the natural features that are on the property, the existing buildings, the roadways, even the access points. The current access to this property comes off of Sleepy Hollow Road. It's right about center along the perimeter of the property there, and you can see it right along the middle of the page. That's the existing driveway. The plan, as currently proposed, will utilize that existing driveway. It will follow the exact location as it comes up to what will ultimately be the clubhouse. The driveway will have to be improved. There will be some modifications that may be needed to accommodate fire access and things like that. But maybe I'll step away. That help? It's me. It's me? Okay. Do I have a phone? I do have a phone in my pocket. Okay. I'll try that. Try it, see if it works. So again, just back to the access, I'm just gonna step back and I have a loud voice and I can speak up. The access to the property is central on the property, and like we were indicating before, that driveway will continue to be utilized and we'll be able to do some improvements to that. That access will also provide access to the residential portion of the property that you see kind of central, a little bit towards the eastern side of the property. That's where a majority of the single-family homes would be located. David alluded to the fact that we are proposing a cluster subdivision. The zoning, the R40 zoning district, the single-family residential homes that are shown on the property right now, do not conform to the R40 zoning district requirements. We're proposing lots that are a little bit smaller, a little bit more consolidated, and to a very specific area of the site that they can be situated, working with the topography and the natural land features are there. So that's where you can see the residential that's situated there. What David alluded to before as well is just demonstrating that we have the ability to have a zoning compliant residential subdivision with those R40 zoning district requirements. So, and this is something we've spoken about in other applications with this board as well. We've already evaluated the property to look at if we were to develop this property as a zoning compliant single family subdivision, how many lots could be constructed on the property respecting the natural conditions, the wetlands, the water courses, steep slopes, different areas, all of that. And it is significantly more than the 75 that is currently being proposed. Again, just a detail that will be further vetted out as we go through the DEIS process. But again, it was important just to acknowledge it and let the board know that this is something that was being considered in the development of this plan. So when you see the 75 single-family homes, there was a thought process that went into that on where they're situated and the number of lots that are being proposed right now too. Steve, the access we spoke about quickly. You want me to? Okay. I'll keep going? Keep going, yeah. Okay. The slopes and grading, again, we spoke about that and how the site has been designed with the different plateaus, respecting those natural conditions, the golf course being laid out in a way that works with those natural conditions on the property there. Thank you. So that is, again, something we'll dive into in a lot more detail as we get into the environmental review process. But again, these things were considered as we went through this process. Drainage. We jumped into drainage as well, making sure we understood the drainage patterns. Mr. Chairman, you've mentioned it several times. Obviously, you know, we know flooding is a concern within the municipality as it is throughout Westchester County. These are things that we look at on a regular basis with these individual projects that we study. We have zoning requirements, we have code requirements, we have state requirements that we have to comply with. There's consideration that's been built into the plan already, identifying areas where we have stormwater management features, areas that would be dedicated to that. Again, just that initial planning to make sure that the concept that is before you right now considers these different features that need to be incorporated into the plan. And then finally, water and sewer is another thing that we started to dive into as well. We need to service the property. This is actually located within the Briarcliff Water District. It's in the town of Mount Pleasant, but the Briarcliff Water District is what services this property. We've already initiated conversations with them to talk about how service would be brought into this property. We've already initiated conversations with Westchester County regarding sanitary sewer. Again, early in the process, but just trying to understand the different constraints that we are ultimately need to consider throughout the development of this. So I'm gonna, at that point, unless there's any questions that are specific on the site plan itself, we're gonna jump to the town actions, which I believe I'm gonna turn it over to Peter now. and he'll take you through that portion of it there.
Good evening. My name is Peter Farrow. I'm with the planning firm AKRF. We are going to be helping Southworth with the planning, the environmental review, the environmental analysis, and that includes preparing the seeker documentation as well. So stepping back just a little bit, and as David and Diego said, there are a number of actions that are required for this project to move forward. The first and foremost is the approval of the subdivision. Right now, the property is 2 lots. It's being proposed to be subdivided into 65 different lots, right? So you will have the golf course, you will have the residences, you will have the amenity core, you will have the roadways, the maintenance areas. So first and foremost, this is a cluster subdivision application. We're then seeking special permit approval for a membership club. With that special permit, we'll then be seeking a site plan approval for the club itself. So the golf course, the amenity core, and those facilities. In conjunction with that site plan approval and the subdivision approval, there will be wetlands and steep slopes permits as well. So those are the primary actions. As David alluded to, we also have a zoning amendment application into the town board. And that zoning amendment does 3 major things. First,
Into the zoning board, correct?
to the town board.
To the town board, okay.
So we're requesting the town board make minor text amendments to the town zoning code. And there are 3 amendments that we're seeking, and they're all to this special permit that is required for membership clubs. So currently, the town permits membership clubs in the R40 and R10 districts. However, as David said, the limiting factor right now is that a membership club needs to be organized as a not-for-profit entity. Not sure why, but that's how it was, probably because most membership clubs were not-for-profit entities when the zoning was written. We're requesting that that designation be removed. It's still a membership club. It's the exact same characteristics. It's just this would be operated for profit. The second piece of the zoning amendment is to allow discretion on the layout of the golf course. So there is some language in the current special permit requirements about the proximity of a line drawn between the tee and the green and roadways, and probably very well intentioned, but it, as you saw, our site kind of squiggles a lot, and we need a little flexibility. So what we're asking is that the town board permit the planning board during its review of the subdivision site plan special permit to vary those standards if they deem it appropriate. The third piece is we're asking the town board to modify is the parking requirements. Currently, the parking requirements for membership clubs are 1 space per member. It really hinges then on how you define a member. There will be several different classes of members, and they don't all need a parking space all the time. That's just not how these clubs operate. So again, what we're asking for in the text amendment is to give the planning board the authority to review this specific application, and within the special permit, identify the parking that's required for this particular membership club based on information we have to provide you. We've got to provide you with the information to let you make the determination if there's adequate parking.
To be clear, that decision on those text amendments is not done here, obviously. It's done at the town board level.
The decision on the text amendments would be done on the town board level. That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. So, as the seeker person, what we're asking tonight, right, is to take the preliminary seeker action. So before you, we have a site plan, subdivision, and special permit application, as well as wetland and steep slopes. Those applications have been filed with your board. We're asking that you classify this action as a type 1 action pursuant to seeker, which it is, and declare your intent to be lead agency, as you have the preponderance of the approvals. And basically that does, as you know, it circulates the EAF, the application materials to all the involved and interested agencies in order to get some preliminary feedback. Then, as Diego mentioned, we're hoping to come back and begin the EIS process. We know this project's going to require an EIS. So what we're asking then is, in a month or so, we come back, you declare yourself to be lead agency, issue a positive declaration formally requiring us to prepare an EIS. We're asking you to require us to prepare an EIS. Not many applicants do. We're asking. And then start getting public input on the scope of that EIS. So those are the next steps. EIS process, really briefly, it seems complicated, but it really breaks down into 3 steps. The first step is preparing a scope. What are we going to study in the EIS? We submit a draft to you. You put it on the website, give it to the public, the agencies. We hear comments on what should be studied. You mark up that scope and you say, here's what you're going to study. And that's the first step in the first line of the EIS. Once you tell us what we have to study, we go study it. We say, we think we've done it. We give it to you and your consultants. You take a look at it and you say, you hit 1, 3, 5, but you missed 2, 4, 6. Go back and fix it. And we go back and forth until you're satisfied that everything you required is in that document. Once that happens, we open it up to public comment and we hear what the public has to say. Then we're required to respond to every substantive comment from the public and every other agency, as well as your board, in writing. And that's the final environmental impact statement, or FEIS. From there, it's just a couple more votes on the findings, the site plan, the special permit, and we get into all those nitty-gritty details. So I basically break it down into 3 steps, and each of them has opportunities and requirements for public input. And my job is to make sure that, on behalf of Southworth, we keep this as straightforward and accessible and digestible for your board, that you're getting the information you need and the public's getting the information they need. And I can't imagine there'll be any questions, but I'm sure there will be.
So, Mr. Chairman, one of the things that we'd like to do is allow Christian Rockefeller very briefly to just introduce himself and tell you a bit about the family and the family's involvement here and why they selected Southworth, and then we're ready to wrap up.
Mr. Chairman, Mount Pleasant Planning Board, thank you very much for your time. It's an honor to be with you here this evening. I believe last month my older brother Stephen had the opportunity to introduce himself. My name is Christian Aldrich Rockefeller Sr. As my brother had mentioned last month, my siblings and I and our cousin Sebastian Gamina, we grew up on Bedford Road in Mount Pleasant. We went to Mechanical Hills School, graduated from Briarcliff High School, so Mount Pleasant is our home. I currently reside in Mount Pleasant with my wife and 3 children, and it's been very good to our family. Two of my children were born at Phelps Hospital, so very grateful for everything that the town has done for me and my family. Regarding Fieldwood Farm, as you know, it's a Rockefeller family property. As David alluded to, it's been in the family for over 100 years. It was the country home of John D. Rockefeller III and Blanchette Rockefeller. My great-grandfather Nelson Rockefeller's older brother, John D. Rockefeller III. It's magnificent property. When I was in college, we would do woodwork at the barn off of Sleepy Hollow Road, and the John D. Rockefeller III family on occasion would host the extended family there. So I got to know the property quite intimately. For the last 30 years, approximately, a bit longer, after Mrs. Rockefeller passed away, their eldest child, Sandra Ferry, Miss Sandra Ferry, was the steward of the property, and she kept it pristine, kept it open to the family. And when Miss Sandra Ferry passed away, October 24th of 2024, the property was potentially coming up for sale, and I, along with my siblings and cousin Sebastian Gamina, worked with the Sandra Ferry Trust and worked with them to try to find a great outcome for the property we care so deeply about. And Southworth worked with us. They earned the trust of the Sandra Ferry Trust that they would care for the community, the property, and you have my word. I'm committed to my family, my cousins, the John D. Rockefeller III branch, Mount Pleasant, and to do everything in our power to make Fieldwood shine, to be a great asset of the community, and to do well by everyone in the town of Mount Pleasant. Thank you very much for your time.
We are definitely willing to help get a new sound system for the town of Mount Pleasant. We appreciate your time. As I said, this was largely a do-over. I don't think you heard anything really different tonight than you heard the first time, but we wanted to make sure that those members of the public. I could do this with no mic quite easily.
Lenny's ordering it right now.
Whatever. In any event, we are here simply for one procedural step. As you heard from our entire team, we've spent quite a bit of time, months and months, putting together the material, meeting with staff, meeting with your outside consultants. This is not something that was done by mere whim. This was something that both our client and the Rockefeller family thought long and hard about, and we have come a long way just to get to this point, which I would consider the starting gate. I am asking on behalf of our team to simply emerge from the starting gate and ask that you designate your intent to be the lead agency and circulate to the other involved and interested agencies. You will be guided on that by Pat in terms of to whom it needs to be circulated to. As you heard from Peter, we would then come back after the requisite 30-day period elapses, and you would then be in a position to actually formally become the lead agency. That's the only thing we're asking you to do tonight, to allow us to begin a process that's going to take some time and effort, and we look forward to working with you on that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from board members?
Would we declare at this time that it's a type 1, say our intent as lead agency of this type 1 action?
Okay.
And then after the 30 days, that's when the town board makes their decision on the text amendment? Let me just-
So you have to complete the secret process before they can act on the text amendment.
Okay, okay.
Because the text amendment is a technical action under SECRA, we can't ask them to vote on that until we go through this process.
Right, I get it, then it would be doing that for this. I got
But
you.
it's one of the reasons why we met with them at the outset of this whole thing.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
No.
With that being said, let the record show no additional questions or comments. What is the prevailing thought from the board?
I'd like to make a motion that we declare our intent to serve as lead agency for this type 1 action.
Motion
It's
from
environmental review.
Motion from Eileen.
Second it.
Second from Steve. Walter.
Aye.
Jean.
Aye.
Eileen.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
And a nay for me.
Thank you all. We will be back at the end of the 30-day period. We will see you then.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up. Next up, proposed, where are we now? Here we are. 7, thank you. We're in OT now. Grandview Farms, major subdivision of 3 lots into 16 single-family residential lots and 1 conservation lot. Application PSD 26, location Washburn Avenue, Briarcliff Manor. Section block lot numbers 98.11-2-37, 38, 39, zone R40. I'm sorry, what was that? I'm sorry, ma'am, what's that?
Yes, it will.
I'm sorry. You get your question?
No, I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. Owner and applicant, Infinity Briarcliff LLC, engineer architect Roy Fredrickson, PE. Okay, thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board. Greg Cacciapoli, consulting engineer for Elite Land Design, here to present the project at Grandview Farms. The property was previously before the board many years ago, I believe in 2006 to 2012. Went through a review, was approved. It was approved with access through here to Charlton, I believe. Long story short, I'm sure Mr. Cleary will be able to explain it more in detail. It was litigated that the roadway couldn't cross through open space on that end of the site, and the subdivision could no longer go through. So we are here back. We're back here with modifications that eliminate that roadway that was previously an issue for the subdivision with the same subdivision that was previously approved. It did go through an intensive environmental review. It received the FEIS was accepted, the environmental impact statement, and there was a determination letter that was provided back in 2012. We did our best to show you how the plan is consistent with that plan that was reviewed over the 6 years, all the environmental aspects, traffic, steep slopes, etc. And we're just here to reintroduce the project, put it before you for the first time.
Okay, any questions or comments, board members?
The application didn't include what was originally approved. Pat, your letter was very, went through it, but is there any chance we could see what was, I don't know if anybody on this board was on.
And what we'll make available is the environmental impact statement and the findings that were done for Taconic Track, so you have all of that information.
So if they had the original application and didn't change anything, they wouldn't need to come before us?
No, well, so it's changed. So it would have to be modified in any event. So that's what's before you, the modification to the plan.
But I guess my question is, if they never changed anything,
If they didn't change anything and they had approved, so the problem was the final approval was challenged in court, and the connection to Carlton was removed, was eliminated from that.
Right.
So the plan was sort of in limbo. They would have
So
to
I was
come
here.
back. Yeah, absolutely
so
right.
I'm trying to see the comparison between then and now. So
So that's the issue that's before you now, to compare then and now. So they went through a full environmental analysis.
Looked at it.
thank you.
You have to redo that analysis.
Oh, I know this well. Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, you have to redo the analysis. Your conclusion may be everything's the same, or it may be that things have changed since the prior application, and you have to reevaluate those things. So, for example, the traffic implications are different. Now, there's only a single means of access into the property as opposed to the two means that were previously proposed and challenged through the litigation. So that's different. You have to evaluate that.
Okay.
So this is not a rubber stamp and simply the filing of a building permit to do what was
I was just wondering why we opened the box again.
the box has been caused to be opened again.
Okay.
So it's
Oh,
open.
Okay. All right, understood.
So all what they're doing tonight is the same thing the prior application was doing. You can designate lead agency to begin the process all over
And
again.
there's no zoning text amendments or anything
No
like
zoning
that,
text amendments.
which is a little different than before.
And there's history here that you can
Right.
utilize to the extent it's relevant.
So if we declare ourselves lead agency, and your letter indicated that the current proposal improves many aspects of the previous project, we would declare our intent to be lead agency for this. I mean, if the
It's
former
the action
EIS,
before you, the modified subdivision. So it's for this subdivision.
but we're not determining that an EIS is required again at this point.
Not at all. So
Oh,
you
okay.
will make that determination moving forward, but not yet. All you're
Yeah, I
doing
want to
is
see the old
designating
one
it.
first.
Yeah, absolutely. And the applicant is, I think the applicant has shared with you, they've provided a little sort of chart comparing
Yeah.
previous impacts to current impacts. We have to dig into those,
Mm-hmm.
particularly the traffic impacts and impacts like visual impacts and so forth. It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, maybe we don't need to sell past the storm then, sell past the sale. This is pretty
That's right.
administrative.
So you can start the process again tonight by designating. lead agency.
Okay. Any final questions or comments from board members? We can go right into the vote.
Are we declaring our intent to be lead agent, or, oh,
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Does that sound like a motion?
then I would make the motion that the board declare its intent to be lead agency
Not-
for
not
this
to- Not to
application.
lead you, but I felt, let's get
I
this
took
done.
the hint.
Eileen? Steve? Walter? Jean?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
Steve? And I for me. All right, that's good.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Well, this is not a public hearing, so, should- thank you very much. We want to hear from you, but we will hear from you, I'm sure, during the process, but definitely, you can write us tomorrow or tonight to staff, okay?
Good night.
Thank you very much.
Can I take a motion to close the meeting?
We should technically.